British English by cooking. How about that? So today we're going to look at various things, including ingredients, utensils, cooking verbs, imperatives, and we're going to finally look at the scone recipe to delight your taste buds and your brain, your British English brain. So let's begin at the beginning by looking at the first few verbs. Note the first few nouns. These are things that we want to, one sec. Let me start again. One more time. Technical difficulties, evidently. Okay, ingredients. Ingredients are the foundation of cooking. And these are some basic ingredients that we have in Britain. So, first of all, potatoes. They're very popular in England, especially when we make chips, fish and chips, or when we eat crisps. Now, crisps in America has a different name, but crisps here, well, it's very, just crisps. Oh, they call them chips, but we call chips chips. Anyway, it's a long story. Bread. Bread is a very important part of the British diet, so it's a good word to learn. Potatoes, bread, milk. Milk, we use milk a lot. Cow's milk, normally. Eggs, very important for protein and for making an omelette or fried egg. Rice and pasta. Now, they are the basis of many meals we have in this country, including curry and Italian food, obviously. Butter is another essential ingredient for many foods, and cheese goes well with bread and with pasta, if you have a nice tomato sauce. Flour and sugar are essential for making cakes, which British people enjoy very much. So we're going to read a little text out. See if I can find the right one. Okay. Let's read this out. What's going on? Okay, ignore me. Ingredients. Sorry. Still getting used to this. Ingredients are the heart of everyday British cooking. And knowing how to describe them helps you talk about meals, recipes, and cooking routines. Potatoes and bread are two of the most common staples or basic foods and appear in breakfast, lunches, and dinners. Milk and eggs are essential in both sweet and savoury dishes, forming the base of cakes, porridge, omelettes, and much more. Porridge? Oh yeah. Pasta and rice are popular choices for quick weekday meals and pair well with vegetable sauces or meat if you eat that sort of thing. Butter, cheese, flour and sugar are key ingredients in British baking, forming the basis of cakes, pastries, breads and traditional recipes like scones, which is what we're going to talk about at the end of the lesson, or the last part of the lesson. Being able to talk about these familiar foods allows you to communicate clearly about what you eat and how you prepare meals. Let's get rid of that. So that is basic food ingredients. There are many more, clearly. Vegetables, fruits, spices and herbs. We could go on for hours and days talking about ingredients, but these are the basic things that we're going to mention today. Potatoes, 1 potato, 2 potatoes. With an ES at the end. And good. Okay, so you get those ingredients. Now the next part of the lesson we want to talk about the verbs, what we do with the ingredients. So we can chop, slice, mix, stir, knead, season, fry, bake, boil, and measure. Now, what do these different words mean? Well, let me just get down to the part of the lesson that talks about that. And so chop is when we get, with a knife, we get a carrot and we chop into pieces. If we slice, it's like chopping. So chop and slice are similar, but slice is when you do a lot thinner. You slice a cucumber, or you slice cheese, a slice of bread, because we've cut it in small slices. Mix. Now mix is when you put ingredients together and you mix them. Makes sense? We're going to use that word when we talk about making scones. Mix, stir. Now stir is a similar motion, but often with more liquid food. Soup, for example. We stir soup. We stir a coffee, and so on. Knead, well, that's related very closely to bread. It's when we have all the ingredients and we've mixed the ingredients, and then we're kneading. We're rolling and folding the dough. So we make a dough and then we bake the dough in the oven and we make bread. So we knead the bread before we put it in the oven. Season, we season meals or sauces by putting herbs and spices on. So you can season a sauce, you can season meat, and there's many different seasons, but this is the verb, so it's the action of putting the herbs and spices on the food. Fry, you know, when you fry potatoes, you can make chips. If you're British, or if you want to be British for the day, have some chips. Now, we're not talking about fries, which some countries do. We're talking about chips, which is a British tradition. And if you haven't had chips, proper chips from Britain, then you haven't lived. The next one, bake. We bake bread in the oven. We are going to bake scones in the oven too at some point. Boil is when you're bubbling water, you put the temperature up, and when the water boils, you put the pasta in, or the rice, or the vegetables, possibly. Measure, we measure the ingredients to make sure we have the correct amount for the recipe. And we're going to see we're going to measure the ingredients for scones later on when we look at the recipe itself. So we're going to read a little text all about not utensils, but about verbs. So cooking verbs describe the actions that take place during food preparation. When you chop, you cut food into small pieces using a knife. You mix ingredients in the bowl to create a smooth or even texture, and you add ingredients at specific times to control the taste and structure of a dish. You stir mixtures to blend them evenly and prevent burning. A bit more. To bake means to cook food in the oven, while fry refers to cooking food in oil on the hob or the stove. When you boil, you heat water until it bubbles and cooks food such as eggs, potatoes, or pasta. Finally, you serve the food when it is ready to be eaten. These verbs are essential for following or giving instructions. So there's a little bit about verbs in the cooking context. So let's get rid of that text. I'll put the text in the description so you can read through them and practice using that vocabulary. So now we're going to look at utensils. So these are the things we use to do the actions with the ingredients. It's all connected. So we mix food in a mixing bowl. We bake bread or scones on a baking tray in the oven. We use a saucepan to cook on the hob or the stove. A frying pan as well. We fry oil. We fry on the hob as well. We whisk in a mixing bowl, probably. We use a rolling pin to make dough or anything like that you need to roll out. We use a rolling pin. The oven is where we bake bread or cakes. It's usually electric or gas oven. We use a hob or a stove to cook a nice meal on top. A knife. And we use a knife to chop or slice. A spoon we often use to mix or to stir. We find many ingredients in the refrigerator, or at least maybe in England we don't need a refrigerator during the winter because it's so cold. Ugh. So they're basic utensils. There are many more again, but they're the basic ones that we want to have in our minds. So let's read through the text here, get a bit of context to these words, these utensils. So kitchen utensils are essential tools that make cooking possible. A mixing bowl is used to combine ingredients, while a whisk helps create smooth mixtures such as batter or sauces. Notice the word batter here. It's not butter. That butter is what we get that we put on bread or we put in a cake. A batter is a mixture we maybe put a fish or chicken in and we fry it, and that is a crunchy, crispy covering to the food. That's batter. Okay, a rolling pin is important for flattening dough, which is a key step in many baking recipes. Basic tools like a knife and spoon are used. They're used constantly for chopping, stirring, and serving food. Well, I guess a knife is for chopping, a spoon is for stirring and serving. Cooking appliances. Cooking appliances such as the oven and the hob or the stove allow you to bake, fry or boil meals, and the refrigerator ensures that ingredients like milk, eggs and butter stay fresh. Understanding the purpose of the utensils here helps us to follow recipes more easily and describes our cooking actions with precision. So that's the third section, and we've looked at ingredients, we've looked at verbs we use when cooking and preparing food, and we've looked there at utensils, the things we use to make the meal. So we could say that ingredients plus utensils times verbs equals food, a meal or a cake. So if you have any questions, please put a comment in the comment section, and we'll try and answer that for you while we're here. But there's something important when we read a recipe, and that something is called imperatives. Now, imperatives are instructions or directions or even warnings. Let me give you some examples. Imperatives. Well, first of all, let's show you what they're not. So these are verbs that we've talked about today. I bake, so I bake. You mix. He adds. We whisk. See, they're simple verbs that have a pronoun, a person, and the verb. However, with imperatives, we only have the verb. No pronoun, no person before, just the verb. So an example could be, bake the bread for 10 minutes. We don't say, you bake the bread for 10 minutes. It's an instruction. So it's saying bake. Mix the food. It doesn't have to say we mix the food. We know that it's us. It's an instruction in a recipe. Mix the food. Add the ingredients. Whisk the cream. And so on. So we're going to see that later when we go through the recipe for scones, British scones, not American scones. So these are imperatives. There are many other examples in Britain, in British English, and English in general, where we use such language. For example, when we're giving directions, we say, walk along. We don't say you walk along. So walk along the street, turn left at the end, and stop, as an example. So we use imperatives when we give directions. When we give advice. We say, try to relax, or take your time, or sit down, have a drink. See, you don't say you have a drink or I sit down. It's advice, a suggestion or encouragement to do something. Try to relax. Now, warnings. When you see a warning sign on a wall, it doesn't say emergency exits, or it doesn't say run now, you run away. It gives instructions or warnings. So for example, be careful, don't touch or do not touch, avoid this area, stop. See, signs are they use imperatives, action. And then we have others. I think I've mentioned it. Enjoy your meal, that's imperative. Have a good day. Go home. But also we have negatives, negative imperatives. Don't touch the wires, or don't overcook the pasta. Don't forget your keys. Don't turn off the video that you're watching on YouTube. In fact, while you're there, if you give me a thumbs up, if you want to leave a comment or something, please feel free, as we encourage you to do. It's good to get feedback. So imperatives then, understanding imperatives really helps us to understand recipes, but also in general English life, imperatives help you to receive instructions, understand warnings, And they're things that are very important when you're in a foreign country, an English-speaking country. So, we've come to the part where we're going to look at the recipe. Hooray! And we're going to look at the recipe for traditional British scones. How about that? Have you ever had a traditional British scone? They often prepare them, they'll cut them in half and they'll put cream and jam, or they may put jam and then cream. It depends on your preference. Sometimes if they're hot, they'll just put lovely butter on. Yum yum. So traditional English scones. The ingredients. So here we have to measure the ingredients. These are the ingredients we have that we need for the recipe. So 250 grams of flour, 40 grams of sugar, 60 grams of cold butter. Notice it doesn't just say butter, it says cold butter. Yum yum. 150 milliliters of milk, 1 egg, and a pinch of salt. So do you know what a pinch of salt is? I just did it, didn't I? So you get a bit of salt and you sprinkle it in. Not much, not much. So scones, that's the ingredients. So we've talked about flour, sugar, butter, milk, I think eggs. Do we mention salt? Maybe not. But salt is important to give flavour to your food, whether it's sweet or savoury. Now, I want to bring up the recipe itself. There's they're the ingredients. Let's look at the instructions. I'll have to get rid of the other one, I think. Otherwise, you won't be able to see me, and that's the most important part of the thing, isn't it? So, instructions. First of all, remember they're imperatives. So, that's really important. Uh-oh. Now I've messed it up. Okay, so instructions. Preheat the oven to 200 degrees centigrade. We normally have Fahrenheit, which is an F, or centigrade, which is common in England, which is just a C. 200 degrees C. That's the first instruction. So notice it's an imperative. Preheat the oven. So turn it on and warm it up to begin with. Take the butter from the refrigerator and chop into small pieces. So you see, already we're using those verbs that we've talked about. Chop, for example, we've talked about butter, excellent. Refrigerator. See, we're using the vocabulary we've learned in the lesson so far. So chop the butter into small cubes. Mix the flour, sugar and salt in the mixing bowl. Okay, so we get that. We might do it with our hand. We might mix the flour, sugar and salt with our hand, or we may use a spoon. A big wooden spoon is common. Add the butter and rub it in with your fingers until it becomes crumbly, or they also say until it becomes like breadcrumbs. So you mix the flour, sugar and salt together, then you add the butter and you kind of do this. If you have a ring, take it off because your hands will get messy. Whisk the milk and egg together, then add them to the bowl. So separately, you whisk the milk and eggs, or the egg, there's only one, and then you pour that into the mixture. And the following, number 6, it says there, stir gently until a soft dough forms. So stir. So by then, this mixture is rather thick. It's a big wooden spoon. We stir until it forms into a soft dough. Lightly flour the surface, that's a work surface in the kitchen, and roll the dough to about 2 centimeters thickness. So is that 2 centimeters? An inch maybe? It's not rocket science. It's just not too thick, not too thin. Okay, cut out circles with a knife or a cutter, or we can use a glass and twist that around until we have a nice round shape like that. So we roll the dough and then we cut them into circles. And what do we do then? We place them on the baking tray. So the recipe says, place them on a baking tray, continuously using the imperative form of the verbs. Yummy. And then it says, number 9, bake for 12 to 15 minutes until golden on top, nice and light brown. Serve warm with butter and jam, or as I said before, cream and jam, or jam and cream. Now, would you try that recipe at home? Now that we've explained it, you have the ingredients, the utensils, and the actions to do it. Thumbs up if you want to try that recipe. Yay! Maybe next time I'll do a video of me making it. Or just eating it perhaps will be better. But did you see the imperatives that we used in this recipe? Preheat, take, chop, mix. Thanks for the thumbs up. Add, rub, as it rub in. Technically, it's a 2-word verb. Whisk, add, stir. Flour is technically there. It's technically a verb. We flour the surface. We cover it with flour. Roll, cut, place, bake, serve. All those are in the imperative form. And we have the ingredients we mentioned. Butter, flour, sugar, salt. We have milk and egg. And that's all the ingredients we need for this recipe. I think actually it needs a spoon of baking powder, a small spoon, a teaspoon of baking powder. And personally, I like to put raisins or dried fruit into my scones, so they're then fruit scones, which is very good. Or some people add cheese into the mixture and then on top, and make cheese scones, which are more savoury. But all scones in Britain are very nice, and I'm sure you'll enjoy making this recipe. If you do it, please read the instructions aloud. Read the ingredients list, and then every step you make, you say, okay, now preheat the oven to 200 degrees centigrade. Or 200 degrees C. Now take the butter, and then you take the butter. So you're saying out loud as you're doing the action. And so on and so forth. And then if you are able to finish the recipe, and well, I hope you enjoy eating them, because it's a good recipe and I like scones. So and there's something else to bear in mind with these imperatives. Let's take the recipe down. I'll put the recipe in the comments, in the description, of the video. But with imperatives, if you're in an English-speaking country, always look at the signs that you see in a building or in the street, and notice that they are generally imperatives, commands, instructions, directions. So keep an eye out for that as well, especially if you're not going to make scones. So it's been a tasty lesson today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and try and get rid of this imperatives. It doesn't want to go. So Have fun cooking. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and come back next week for another video. Whether it's cooking, I don't think so. Maybe we'll do directions to carry on the imperatives. But whatever it is, check back next week and learn more British English right here with Great British English. See you next time.